Welcome back to Obsessed by Everything Bravo. Hi, my name is Meredith, and I'm your host on this journey through the Real Housewives franchise. And as always, if you're listening to this and you're enjoying it, go ahead and give me a rating review and give me a follow subscription if you want to. And you can always send me a message. You can do that in the show notes for every podcast that you listen to. There's a show notes. If you would like to send me a message, you can do so right there. It just texts me right to my phone, or you can always email me at obsessedbybravo@gmail.com. And if you would like to make a donation to the show, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'm going to be forwarding any money received this month, the month of February, to the Minnesota Immigrant Fund that's going to help people in Minnesota. So far I have one donation and I appreciate it so much. But I'd love to hear from anybody else, even just to hear from you. And I would love to know what you think about the show and if you love it, not if you hate it. If you hate it, just don't click on it anymore. Oh, positive views only. Okay. We're living in difficult times. Okay. But today we are here to talk about the Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 4, Episode 3, entitled Shower the Baby, Muzzle the Boy. Honestly, yeah, that's my life philosophy. Muzzling men. That's it. Okay, we're done. Bye. Okay, so let's get into the episode. Let's get into it. So we open the episode and it's Shereé driving up to a construction site where she's tearing down a house to build a new home there in a well-established neighborhood. Why she couldn't, if she wanted a new build, why she didn't want to just build in a new neighborhood? I don't know. She said this is one of the most desirable neighborhoods, so you found a shit house and I don't know. This just seems ridiculous to me. What's the cost? I mean, it's not like you're tearing down a mobile home. There was like a house there and you couldn't remodel it, just tearing the whole thing down. Imagine if that was your home, like you grew up there, that was your childhood home, and you're like in your neighborhood and you're like, oh, I want to show, my kid, I want to show them the neighborhood I grew up in, and you drive past and it's in the process of being torn down, or there's like something totally different, and then you're like, did I take a wrong turn? Like, I can imagine how disorienting that might be. Anyway, so they're building, and the guy says it in a minute, but they're building what we'll affectionately be calling Chateau Shereé. And spoiler alert here, major spoiler alert, Chateau Shereé is not finished for years. Okay, Shereé leaves the show and comes back, and we're still working on this house. Okay, I need you to know that when we start talking about timelines. So Shereé says this project is like another job. I'm building my home exactly how I want it. I can build out in the future, but right now I just want things. Here's what I want. I want a gym. Okay, that's reasonable. We have a gym in my basement. It is not the nicest thing. It's what we used our COVID stimulus, because my husband, that's his only hobby, is working out. Not his only hobby, but you know what I mean? Like that's his hobby, is working out. And so when we couldn't go to the gym for COVID, he was stressing. So we used our stimulus package and we started buying gym equipment, and we've been acquiring more. It's been 6 years since COVID, but so anyway, okay, a gym. And then she wants a massage room. Like, you need a whole room for that? I mean, Kim was doing it in her family room in front of 20 people. The last episode. I don't know why you need a whole room. A ballroom so the kids can skate. Have they not heard of outside? Like, a lounge area with a DJ booth. This is what we're starting with, so we can build out. And a theater. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, we can do all this. It's going to take 8 months. Okay. Also, here's what goes through my mind. I don't know. Cairo he's 14, 15. So he's going to be moving out maybe 5 years. She has a younger daughter who's only a couple years younger than Cairo. Who's living in this gigantic house with you? Like, do you just want to be like scream hello and then listen to the echoes. Like, why do you need this huge house? Like, I know why Shereé feels like she needs it. She feels like she deserves it for what just existing. But like, truly, you're going to be alone in that house. Like, are you just, I mean, maybe she's wanting her kids to live there forever. I don't know. But it just seems like you could just get a nice 5-bedroom and your kids could still live there forever. Do they need a ballroom so they can skate? what? What's happening there? I don't know. Anyway, 8 months is a joke because it doesn't get finished for like 5 years. Like her kids are gone by the time this is finished, is what I'm saying. Okay, so now we go over to Phaedra's. She's making breakfast and we're getting to see her with Aiden. Now he is the cutest baby boy. This is her baby that she delivered last year when she was pregnant and didn't know what her due date was. Remember that? That's one of the funniest things that's happened on Housewives. But he is literally one of the cutest babies. Like, should be a grower baby for sure. I mean, all babies are cute, but he's just got like this especially like squishy face. And so Phaedra tells us that, you know, before this baby was born, she thought she was going to be like this hard mother and all this stuff. But since Aiden's been born, the roles have reversed. And Apollo wants to be stern and she wants to be cuddly and love him and give him whatever she wants. And apparently Apollo is snappy today because he's been getting a lot of negative attention. Now, this is where we learn that she was at work one day and she gets an emergency phone call that her husband was pulled over by police, pulled out of his car, and beaten in the street. So, like, people were driving by and then reporting this. Well, not only to her, but also, like, the news outlets have gotten this. And Apollo being an ex-con, that adds, like, another layer to it. And so Apollo is angry that people are talking about it, but it's like Phaedra is a celebrity at this point. And she's like, people are just going to recognize you and, you know, you have a past and we're just going to have to deal with it. And Apollo says every time something happens, it's just because I have a past that it becomes an issue. And he's like, I can't fight society and then come home and fight you in my own house. But here's the thing. You should have known before you all signed up for this television show that this kind of stuff would happen. And the other thing that Phaedra explains later is they had the wrong person. So they weren't after Apollo. They were after someone else. They pulled him over and thought this was the person that they were after, pulled him out of the car and were beating him up on the street. And it wasn't even him. It's according to them that they say. So Apollo is pretty much like hot, like upset this whole time. Okay. So now Cynthia and Peter are in their kitchen and Leon comes by. Now Leon is the father of Cynthia's daughter, Noelle. And honestly, Leon, he is divine. He's a model, right? He's good looking, but he's like so nice. I just always wanted Cynthia to be with Leon. Why Peter? Peter's such a dickhead. Whatever. And I guess, so, you know, in the last season, Peter and Cynthia were getting married, right? Well, they went on that trip to Miami and then Cynthia's like running out of the room crying, and it come to find out this bar that he had, which I can't remember what it was called, Uptown, was closing, and she had put a lot of money into it. So basically, like, all of her money is now gone because she'd given him money for this bar. Well, come to find out, Peter's opening another lounge/club, and they're calling it Bar One. Now, I will say Bar One is still in existence. I don't know if it's still in existence in Atlanta, but it has more than one location because we film in other Bar One locations on other franchises. So I don't know how successful it is. I feel like this is what's weird to me about the restaurant industry and like Lisa Vanderpump and all these people, that restaurants are notoriously bad business. They just close. They're hard to make money on. You have to just overcharge. They close so easily. I don't know. To me, this is like, maybe you should do something else. You've already lost your life savings on one, you're going to immediately 1 year later do another one. Like you can't just like go be a mailman or something, like anything. And then Leon broaches the question of how are things going with Cynthia's family since the wedding? And if we recall, Cynthia was kind of out of sorts that whole day of the wedding. And basically her sister, Mal, and her mom were kind of trying to talk her out of getting married. Because they're like, you seem so unnaturally upset about all this. Maybe we should just not get married today and think about it a little bit more. It's not like they had any issue with Peter. It's just like, this seems to be a bad idea. Like you seem like you're, walking to your funeral. And so on the day, Cynthia thought she had forgotten the marriage license. Well, it turns out that Mal did have the marriage license. And then she's like, what if we just lose it and then they won't actually be legally married and then we can really just kind of like figure this out. And they ended up not doing that, but it was just like discussed, and it was discussed on camera. Well, come to find out, Cynthia and Peter had no knowledge of this until it was on the show. And so Peter, when he found out about it, even though he didn't know about it originally when it happened, he was like really upset. It really upset him. But again, they were just going based on what Cynthia's actions were. It's not like they were dogging Peter and they were saying all these negative things about him. They were just like, it seems like you're having second thoughts. Maybe we should just take a moment and figure things out. And it just so happens that it's on the wedding day. So Cynthia says there needs to be some family meetings to discuss what happened, which is like, that happened a year ago. You waited till it was time to film again, which is like, okay, I love that because obviously I want to see, but also this seems like contrived. Okay, now we go to another scene. And Shereé is meeting Kim out for lunch. And Kim tells us in a confessional, Shereé and I have been close for 10 years. We just had that one little incident a couple of years back. Cue the flashback of the hair pulling scene in season 2. But like I said, no, you have not been close for 10 years. You specifically told us in season 1 that NeNe wouldn't let y'all be friends. You don't know this girl. You've known her for 4 years. You've known her since filming the show, yes, where you guys started an alliance to go against NeNe, but you have not been close to this person for 10 years. That honestly, like that's easy for me to pick out. And granted, now this is 4 years from when that original came out. I'm watching them in close succession and I'm taking notes and I'm talking about each episode for an hour. So yeah, I do remember details. But to lie and say you've been close for 10 years, now I don't trust one goddamn thing that you say, especially when it comes to NeNe, because you and Shereé have been canoodling and trying to bring her down for 4 years. And it's transparent. It's extremely transparent. I don't know why you're even making this up. Like, that's just like an easily verifiable lie that you say that you've been good friends for 10 years when I know that is a lie. I don't know. That just really, really hit me as something crazy because it's like the whole thing that you guys were talking about in season 1 was, man, we're such good friends. Why would NeNe keep us apart? I don't know. It's just like a stick in my craw to where I'm like, if you're going to lie about you could have easily said, we've been close for 4 years and we just had like one little incident a couple years back. But other than that, we're really close. And that is believable, right? And that is, okay, you have been close. But to just be like, oh, we've been close for 10 years. You can't exaggerate 4 years from 10 years. Like if you've been close for 9 years, then it's like, oh, well, we've known each other for a decade. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you have known each other for a decade. But you haven't. That's not even close. And it's just like, if you're going to lie about that, you're going to lie about everything. Because I know when you guys started talking to each other. You know what I mean? Whatever. this is not even what this is about. It's just like pointing out how much of a liar Kim is. And for me, I can look over a lot of things. What I can't look over is you being a blatant liar. And you just, because it makes me feel like you think I'm stupid. Like I don't pay attention to facts. And I don't like it when people think that I'm stupid. You know what I'm saying? I like to be treated like an intelligent person. I don't mind that things go over my head, and I don't mind not understanding things because I can look them up because I have access to this all the information that's ever been known on the planet. I have it in my hands right now. So I don't mind looking things up. What I don't like is you lying to me thinking that I'm just going to let just one little thing slide because, I let one little thing slide and then everything slides. Like, what really, it makes me actually question everything you've ever told me. And so what was your relationship with Big Papa? Was he married or was he not? Like, what is your financial situation? And let's never forget, the ring don't mean a thing. We've never heard about that ever again. Why? Is because you refuse to pay Candy. So you're a cheat and you're a liar. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're actually sort of like one of the worst people on that we've ever seen, I think, because you're just down low dirty. Whatever. There's my rant for Kim Zolciak for the day. Okay, so Kim and Shereé are talking. Kim is having a baby shower. Now, she does at some point say, well, you don't normally have a baby shower for your third baby. But obviously, Brielle is like 10. Or what's the second one? Ariana. She's like 10. So, yes, they need baby stuff now. Okay, whatever. And also, this is Croy's first baby. And it's a boy. So, yeah, you can have a baby shower. And she says she's inviting a shitload of people and that they are planning on moving into a new house. So, Shereé tells her about her new house, that she's tearing one down. And then Shereé's like, I can't live in an old house. I want new. That reminds me of Teresa Giudice when she was like, I can't live in other people's things in a already lived in home. What's up with these people having like brand new things? It's so weird. Like a home is not a pair of shoes. Like, you're okay buying your son used shoes, but you need a brand new home. Where's the priorities there? Okay, so now we go see NeNe. She's at home, and Brent is going to Gregg's for visitation because they're separated. And NeNe and him are having a heart-to-heart, and he says that he wishes that Gregg and NeNe were under the same roof and he didn't have to go to different houses anymore. And you can kind of tell that really, really affects NeNe, and she's like, I wish that too. It's just, that's just not how things are right now. Gregg comes over and they seem cordial. They're chit-chatting in the kitchen. She's handing him some mail. And NeNe says, she hates that Brent has to live in two homes, but right now the separation has been really good for her and Gregg. Now we go to a scene where Phaedra and Candy are shopping for the baby shower. And Phaedra says that, every other month there's going to be a new trend in baby stuff. And so Kim has to have the latest and greatest thing. And this is really like the first time I think that we see Phaedra and Candy just like regular friends, because they're walking around the store, they're giggling, they're laughing, they're cool, they're kikiing. Now, Phaedra and Candy do become like best friends as the years move on. And then of course they have a big falling out because this is Housewives. And it's actually like the reason that Phaedra gets kicked off of Bravo essentially for like a decade. So we will talk about that when that gets there. But for right now, we're still like kind of in the beginning of this friendship. And I always have really enjoyed Phaedra and Candy's friendship. Phaedra is one of my favorite. I think she's just so smart and funny, and like she on purposely funny. Some people are funny and they don't know that they're funny, or they're not in on the joke, but she's always in on the joke because she's so smart, So Candy starts asking about Apollo, and Phaedra's like, well, I don't want to talk about all that. So she's trying to downplay it, I think, because Phaedra's still living in this land of, she's like this perfect Southern belle, and they have like this very traditional marriage. So she's not going to talk about her like marital issues or her husband's issues out in public. So she's going to try to downplay this whole thing, which for me, if it was like a mistake and all that, and and, you know, they had got the wrong person, I'd be shouting that from the rooftops. I'd be like, look, it wasn't Apollo. It was somebody, they were looking for somebody else and there was a mistaken identity. That would just be me. I'd be screaming it from the rooftops, not how she is moving in this. So then Kandi asked if she's seen Cynthia and are they cool? And Phaedra's like, I don't have beef with Cynthia. She just thought she thought I was mean to her last year when I never said anything nice about her. And then apparently Peter had given this magazine article interview and he was mad talking about all the ladies except for Kandi, I think. And Phaedra says, you know what, if you got beef with me, come see me and let's talk about it. Don't put it in an article. Is that what old men do? And so essentially what they're talking about is, remember last year, Phaedra was heavily pregnant. They went to that like horse race and it was really just Cynthia, Peter, and Phaedra. And I don't know if anybody else was even there. I don't think Apollo, like Dwight went with her. And they were talking about, something was said where it was like, Phaedra was basically like, I don't want to get married to a man that has like a bunch of kids running around. Like she called him dirty maybe, or implied that that was dirty. But she said that not knowing that Peter had a bunch of kids running around. And so Peter took like a huge offense to that and then wasn't cool and then just gave this weird interview. And so Phaedra's like, look, you know, that wasn't intentional to him. It was just like something that I feel. And so Kandi says, I think they were offended about something you said a long time ago, ever since you were talking about something about having a clean man. And Phaedra is like, I didn't even know that man had a village of children. It was literally the first time I laid eyes on him. How was I supposed to know that he was the old man in the shoe? I honestly, I don't know how many children that Peter has. Peter Thomas to me just doesn't register. He's always trying to get in the mix of the women's business. I don't like that. If you're a man, stay in your lane. You want to have fights, go fight with the men. So Candy's like, well, they took offense as if he wasn't clean because he had kids. And Phaedra's like, well, I didn't tell him to sleep with everybody he met. I'm not saying that he did, but obviously the people he slept with didn't use birth control. I'm just saying I don't want Papa Smurf. The way that they dog on Peter is also something that I love, because like, if you're going to get in the mix with the women, then you need to open yourself up to criticism. And these are the type of people that just can't take criticism, right? Okay, so we're going to move forward to Kim's baby shower. Now, one thing is everybody's invited except for NeNe, just so you know. But even Cynthia and Peter are invited to this baby shower. But Kim and Brielle they're all getting ready for the baby shower. They're getting their makeup done. And this is where Kim's like, you usually don't have a baby shower for the third kid, but you know, whatever. I wanted to make it special for Croy. And we come to find out that, you know, he's got real connections with her daughters. And I mean, it's really like a real family unit. He's like a parent to them that they haven't had they haven't had like a real father figure in a long time. Because even if you think about Big Papa, I mean, he wasn't living with them. He was giving her money, but he wasn't like a father figure to the children. He's got his own family that he goes home to at night. Right. So, you know, everybody feels like it's really nice to have Croy there. They just keep shoving it in our face how much everybody loves Croy, you know, which is great for their spinoff, you know. So they also, Kim's like, they're all dressed up nice. They have their makeup done nice. And then Kim's eating like chicken nuggets in the car. I don't know why I thought that was funny. Like no bib or anything. So they get there in the venue. It looks like a wedding. Like this thing is huge. And okay, we go to commercial break. We come back. We get there. Kim says her mom and dad love Croy. So the ladies start arriving. Kandi brings Mama Joyce, and Kandi says that, you know, I haven't been calling and checking in on Kim like I should, but hopefully this will be good. And Kim goes, I don't really know what happened with Kandi and I. I haven't heard from her at all during my pregnancy, and actually I've been really disappointed for that. You don't know what happened between you and Candy? You mean when you stole all the money for Tardy for the party and you didn't give her 10%, you didn't give her nothing, and she was basically like, well, guess what, you can't have the ring, don't mean a thing. You don't know anything about that? What are you talking about, Kim? I understand that, like, you met this man and you got pregnant and your life immediately changed, but Candy's didn't. She's not going to forget that you fucked her over for Tardy for the party. She's never going to forget that. That changed your relationship for good. Why would she call you and check in on you for her pregnancy? Why would she do that? Why would you call anybody who treated you like shit like that? Now, I understand you have to film together. So you guys are going to film together and she's going to be nice to you during filming. She's not your friend because you treated her like shit. Why would you go back for that? What kind of delusional land are these people living in? I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened when I stole an opportunity from NeNe to be famous and make millions of dollars. I don't know what happened when I didn't pay Candy the money that I owed her for giving me the opportunity to create a song and make millions of dollars. I don't know why these people are mad at me. Give me a break, dude. So Phaedra and Apollo arrive, and Phaedra tells Candy that, this whole thing is like really nice. When she had her baby shower, Kim was talking shit about it and said everything was extra, but look around, we look like we're at a wedding. And that's true. That is true. Now, Kim doesn't have ballerina dancers. So there's a difference there. But she's not wrong when she says Kim made fun of her for having her over the top baby shower. And like, for me, these baby showers are crazy, but it's for the show, obviously, for the show. So Shereé and Lawrence get there, and they're like, oh, it's supposed to be real fancy. And then Lawrence says, maybe I should have my baby shower here. And Shereé's like, oh, are you pregnant? And he's like, I don't know, but I think some of Croy's teammates might be there, so I could be. I don't know. I just thought this was fun. That was funny. He's like, I could be tonight. Okay, I don't know if that's how that works. Okay, so we have the baby shower here, there, everywhere. There's all kinds of people. Again, this looks like a freaking wedding, and this is not like your normal baby shower. Like, all the baby showers I've been to have been at like somebody's house or like a church basement. You know what I mean? Like a church meeting space, and you do food and you do like silly games where somebody melts candy bars in the diaper and you have to smell it and figure out what type of candy bar it is, and then they open presents and then you leave. Like, that's a baby shower for me. This, I don't even know what they were doing. They said the whole thing was like 5 hours, and is there dancing? What is happening? Is everybody sitting around watching her open up her presents? I don't know what they're doing here, but I know at some point they're eating because they're all sitting at a table. And now it's time to make speeches. And Brielle makes a speech. And okay, so the first thing so it is actually a very touching speech when it gets to the end, and everybody's like crying. They have tears in their eyes and all this stuff. But she opens up with, well, I just want to say to Croy, thanks for getting my mom knocked up. Which is like, okay. But then she does move on from that, and it's very sweet. Again, shoving it in our face that Kim is blessed, living a blessed life, a happy family. She's got this dad, this husband dad figure in their life, and they're all gonna like just skip into the sunset. Shereé, Phaedra, and Candy are all happy that Kim has found Croy because it seems like the girls love him and he loves them, and now they have a perfect family. So then Candy is like, well, where's Cynthia? I thought Cynthia was supposed to come. And Shereé goes, I don't talk to her. And this is what I'm talking about with Shereé. It's like she's not doing that much, but what she's doing is like golden, right? I don't talk to her. Why would I know what she's doing? Girl, same. So Cynthia, now we go to her, and she is in the car, and her and Peter are coming to this baby shower. Also, why are men coming to the baby shower? I don't know. Whatever. It's just an excuse for Kim to throw money around and have a big party and be on the show, right? Because it's not a wedding. It's a baby shower, but it looks very much like a wedding. So Cynthia's in the car and she tells us in a confessional, all I know is that, oh wait, hold on. Shereé is talking about Cynthia. I'm so sorry. I'm getting myself confused. Shereé says, all I know is that Cynthia is stuck up NeNe's ass and that her husband does this magazine interview and they say nasty stuff about us for no reason. So Kandi is like, I'm just confused because nobody had any falling out with her. And Shereé's like, I don't have a problem with her. I was shocked. And I was like, wow, okay. And then she tells us, who does that? Like, what straight man goes and does an article about his wife's friends? Like, y'all don't have any other shit to talk about? And she says, I wish we could all get along, but life isn't all full of cherries and berries. I was like, what does that mean? That's going to be my new saying. Life isn't full of cherries and berries. Okay, so now we go to Cynthia and Peter, and they're in the car. So Cynthia tells us, it feels awkward driving to Kim's baby shower knowing NeNe wasn't going to be there. But Peter and I are going to go, and we're planning on having a good time. The planning part is probably where you messed up. You should have made like a more specific plan. And also, it's like, you didn't know that the women were not going to like the women. Sorry, that sounded weird. The women, plural, were not going to be receptive of your husband talking shit about them. Like maybe he was offended, but you could say like, hey, I didn't like how she said I was dirty because I had kids or whatever. But you didn't say that. You just start talking shit about everybody but Kandi, which is weird. Even NeNe, right? So Peter arrives, and as they're walking in, or they arrive, and as they're walking in, Peter kind of says, oh, I hope we don't get kicked out. Yeah. I mean, I hope so too. Unfortunately, that's not how it goes. So then they kind of walk in, and remember, this is like a big venue, but because the housewives are like so big now, and because remember we have to film, and they always are having them sit together at events. Like you're not going to have a couple people here and a couple people over there. They want, first of all, they don't have that many camera people. You know what I mean? They can't have 7 because you have to get everything at a different angle. So like, let's just speak this out. So if say we had 3 different tables, you have to have a camera person on each person. So let's say Cynthia and Peter were sitting in a different table. That would be 2 camera people for them. And then, Phaedra and Apollo and Kandi were at a different table. That's 3 camera people because you need 1 for each person. So anyway, so they're all sitting together, and also because they want, why would I care what Cynthia is saying to like Aunt Judy? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't give a fuck about them. We want to know what's happening with the people. So then they go and they sit down at their designated cast table. And all the other women are like rolling their eyes, and they're like, ugh. So then Kim also, for whatever reason during this time, I'm pretty sure she went out to smoke a cigarette, but she basically was like, I was just like overheated and I was tired. So me and, what's her fucking assistant? Me and Sweetie, left basically for a few, like went outside to get some air, which she's smoking a cigarette. Like, so anyway, Kim tells us that Peter and Cynthia showed up in the last 20 minutes. This party has been going on for 5 hours and they didn't even bring a present. Which honestly, yeah, why are you going to a baby shower with no present? Not even a card with $20 in it. And then Phaedra says, who comes to a baby shower 5 hours late? Did they come just for refreshments? And Shereé says, since NeNe wasn't invited, I didn't expect for Cynthia to show up, but I guess NeNe let her puppy off the leash for a night. So at the table, everybody's eating, and Kandi asked Peter, like what he's been up to. And he's like, oh, I'm opening a new bar. And he's like, oh, I'm going to have a grand opening in about 6 weeks. And this is like some girl stuff, because now Phaedra starts talking to Kandi, not including Cynthia and Peter, but she's kind of like saying something that she wants to say to. It's very passive aggressive. She's saying stuff that she wants to hear Peter to hear, right? And she said, well, I'm not going to be invited because some people don't like me. Just kind of like, obviously she wants Peter to hear this, and but she's not saying it to him. I don't know. This is like some real deep girl girl passive aggressiveness, you know what I mean? Which we actually don't see a lot of on Housewives, ironically, because I feel like that's actually how real people kind of do things. But, and Peter goes, well, actually, I love you. And Apollo, who's sitting here, is like, that's not what you said, basically in the magazine. And Peter's like, well, anybody that takes jabs at me, I jab back. I'm a reactor. So then Cynthia's like, I don't understand why Phaedra would bring up the interview they had right now. If they really had something to say about it, there's a time and a place, and it wasn't at Kim's baby shower. Then why did you come? Because clearly these women are going to have something to say about it. Like, what she should have done, Cynthia should have called each and every one of these people and said, hey, I know Peter had some strong words to say. Maybe we could sit down and talk about it. Because why, if you are going to talk shit about me, why am I going to reach out to you? Like that doesn't make any sense. So why is Cynthia saying, well, why did she even bring it up? This wasn't the right time or the place. They haven't seen you in 10 months. Where's the right time or place? Like, and I'm not going to call you and be like, let's have a sit down with your husband. No, I'm not doing that. So yeah, of course Phaedra's going to like bring it up. Okay. So Phaedra is now like, okay, well, why'd you say Shereé ain't cute? Because she is pretty. And Shereé says, I know I'm cute, Peter. And Peter's like, you know that for a fact? And Shereé says, saying I'm not cute is the last thing you could say that would bother me. And then she tells us, I don't think it's cute when you have to borrow money from your wife. That was some bitch assness. So she goes, I know I'm cute. So stuff like that don't bother me. And then Peter just goes, okay, I feel you. Which he's just like eating and like trying. He is at this point trying hard to just like let things blow over. So he's just like, okay, I feel you. And also the way Peter moves is so strange to me. I'm not going to get into that now, but he's just like, so nonchalant, yet he's like also attacking. I don't know. So Phaedra says, we don't know each other that well for you to dislike me in general. And everybody tells me that you don't like me. And Peter says, I don't want you to tell me what everybody says. You read the article. And then Apollo goes, no, we don't have time to waste on that article. So with the everybody says and Apollo, they're basically saying like, no, we didn't buy your article and we didn't read your article. We're just telling you what people have told us. So they're saying like, they're kind of like dissing the article, being like, we're not going to read that shit. We don't have time for that shit. That's what that subtext is. And so Peter's like, oh, you don't have time to waste? I hear you. Again, he's just like, okay. And so then Phaedra says Peter's interview made Apollo very upset because I'm his wife. And as a man, if you have a problem with me, then the proper thing to do is address my husband. Which also, like, as a man, if you have a problem with me, then you don't put it in an article. Like, for me, this is why I just can't with Peter, because it's like, so Peter's problem is what Phaedra said about him being dirty, right? But he's also saying shit about all the other housewives, and he's just doing that to get publicity, right? Because really, nobody has an issue with Cynthia before this, right? They're just like kind of making fun of her because they feel like she's up NeNe's ass, but nobody has a problem with Cynthia. They all went to the wedding. Everybody was cool. So Peter's really just like trying to stir up drama because that creates magazine sales for, I don't even know what magazine this was in. I'm sure they said it, but I don't care. And so it is a bitch move to just insert yourself into women's issues to just like try to throw your weight around as a man. And there's not that many men that do this. But Peter is one. He's notorious for this shit. He gets called out for it again and again and again and again. That he's just inserting himself into these women's issues. Now, Apollo, at this point, he's not inserting himself into women's issues. He's standing up for his wife. But also, I don't think like if you did have a problem with Phaedra, I don't think you go to Apollo for it. I think you go to Phaedra. And we've had some of this stuff. I feel like, Simon and Bobby and Roni had some issues and they were like working it out between each other. So I don't know. Maybe it is, but to me, it feels like a little misogynist to be like, well, just take that up with my husband. Where it's like, no, if I have a problem with you, I'm going to take it up with you. I don't care what your gender is. But that's not the issue here. The issue is Peter's creating more problems when there really was none, you know? So anyway, so Phaedra says, you know, if he is basic now, Apollo's in the mix is essentially like this. So Peter goes, well, you look like you have some kind of problem, and they're sitting right next to each other, and they're like kind of still eating. Like Peter's eating, and Apollo was like, if I had a problem with you, I'd let you know. And then Peter says, please do, because I'm right here. And then Apollo's like, don't worry about me. Get yourself together. And Peter's like, I'm right here. I'm right here. I get myself together. I don't get myself pulled over. Which is like, how do you get yourself pulled over? So then Candy's like, oh my God. She tells us, you do not bring up when a man gets pulled over when he's already been to jail. He doesn't want to hear you bringing that up anywhere, which is like, again, if what Phaedra is saying is true, that it was a mistake, just say that. And so then Apollo's like, what does that matter if I got pulled over? Get your money up. So basically he's like, you're a failed businessman. So Peter says, and you need to do a whole lot of other shit too. So Apollo's like, he's like, back down. You're too old. And Peter says, if I'm too old, baby, bring it. So Shereé tells us, she's like, oh shit, it's getting ready to pop off at Kim's baby shower. So now we have a commercial break and we come back and they're like fighting, which is like what they're saying is like so funny. So Peter says, if I'm too old, bring it. And Phaedra says, I don't know if Peter is calculating that, Apollo must be on parole, so he's not going to beat me up. But guess what? Apollo's off parole, so he can beat him up. And I'm thinking like, Phaedra, why would you want your husband to beat somebody up anyway? So then Apollo goes back down and he stands up. And Peter's like, ease up. It seems like you've got all this attention. Ease up. So now Lawrence is sitting here. Again, he's on the cast. So he stands up too. And I'm thinking like, I love you. I love this man because he's going to go over there and he's going to get in between. He has to get in between Apollo and Peter, who are getting ready to fist fight at a freaking baby shower. And he is going to, because this is like the thing about a masculine man. Now he calls himself Miss Lawrence. He wears makeup, full whatever, and he is the only one who's actually going to stand up for the women and protect them. He's the most masculine man of these people sitting here, right? Just because what he looks like doesn't mean he's not masculine, because he's the only one who's doing the correct thing. Because if you're really like a man like that, you're not going to start shit. First of all, you're not going to start shit with women. Second of all, you're not going to start shit at a baby shower. Like, you know what I'm saying? So Lawrence stands up and he is starting to go across the table, because we're at a big like round like 10-person table. So he's starting to walk around the table. And Apollo has stood up, and now he's trying to get the women to, like, he wants Phaedra and Candy, who are next to him, he's trying to get them to stand up because he's going to get them to leave, basically. So he wasn't standing up to like fist fight, but Peter thought he was. And so, but he is trying to stand up to leave. But Peter thought he was, and Lawrence thought he was. So Peter goes, I've seen you several times out and you haven't said anything. And Apollo was like, if you have a problem with me, you can address me and my family. And Peter says, I don't have a problem with you. And Apollo is like, well, then why are we talking about this? You know what I mean? If you don't have a problem, I don't have a problem. And then there's like a back and forth. And now they start showing footage of like the crowd and like Miss Mama Joyce, who's for some reason not sitting there. And Croy is pissed, and people are starting to like shoo the children out of the way and all this stuff. There's cops that are like watching that. Like, it really wasn't that deep. I don't know why everybody's. So now Phaedra and Apollo are walking away with Shereé and Lawrence. So Candy is now, because, you know, Candy's really Cynthia's only friend at this point at this party. She's trying to get Peter to calm down. And Shereé says, Peter is like NeNe to me, is like, he's all bark and no bite. Peter thought he was going to come in here and punk Apollo, and Apollo was just giving it to him right back. And so now Kim has come back. Like, this is how fast this was. This was like 10 minutes. Kim has come back from getting air, and Croy's like all upset, and she's like, what's going on? What happened? And basically Croy is like, they're fighting at the baby shower. And so Peter's like, I don't have no problem saying what I feel, no time. But he's like talking to air. Cynthia says, I was very uncomfortable and embarrassed and humiliated and mortified. Kim is like pissed. She's cussing and she's like, I spent so much money and time to make this party successful. What a crappy ending to an amazing day. And she says, but if this was a year ago, I would have ran over there and I would have been in the middle of it all, but making a scene and embarrassing myself. But you know what? Honestly, with Croy being here, he keeps me grounded. He kept me out of that fight. And then Phaedra comes on and she says, I'm very proud that Apollo did not beat Peter to a pulp. He handled himself honorably and stood up for his wife, me. Which is like, not really, because he could have just kept his mouth shut and everybody just could have kept eating and finished the party and been fine. So Apollo really was the instigator in that. Well, let me look. Let's see. It was like so weird how it started because Phaedra started it, right? She should have just kept her mouth shut too. And then they were kind of saying like, oh, well, we didn't even read your article. And then Apollo's like, if I had a problem with you, I'd let you know. And then Peter's like, okay, well, let me know. And then Apollo's like, don't worry about it. And then Peter's like, well, I'm right here. And then Peter brings up the getting pulled over. So I don't know. The whole thing is stupid. They're fighting at baby showers. But here's the thing about Housewives. If you really want this event, if you want it to be featured in the show, you've got to have a fight. You got to have a fight there. So this is actually just going to prove to bring the group farther apart. I mean, we have clear divides on who's cool with who. And it's definitely going to be NeNe and Cynthia on one side, Candy's in the middle, and Phaedra, Shereé, and Kim on the other side. I guess the enemy of my enemy is my friend, if for Phaedra, because I just don't really see her being close with Kim at all. But we will see. So that's the end of that episode. Not that much happened, but just like little nuggets here and there to just get us propelling forward. So thanks so much for listening. We have one more episode this week, episode 4, and that's going to be called Jewels Be Dangled. Like dangled, I don't know. We'll talk to you then. Bye.